Yellowstone National Park, America's first national park, established in 1872, is home to more than half of the world's active geysers. But this park that we are so familiar with today will not be around forever. And predicting its future is really hard because, well, it's Yellowstone. As anyone who's visited can tell you, it's an unpredictable place. Yellowstone's future will be shaped by both natural forces and human decisions, which means there are lots of possible futures for it. And no matter what happens, those of us who love Yellowstone need to be prepared for change. So let's talk about some of the ways Yellowstone might look different in the coming decades. There are two big things that could fundamentally alter Yellowstone as we know it. The first one is climate change, and the other is a major volcanic eruption. Let's start with the former. Climate change will affect Yellowstone in multiple ways, but it does seem unlikely that Yellowstone National Park itself will disappear due to rising sea levels or anything like that. The park sits high up in the Rockies, so it's pretty safe from most climate-driven changes. However, as temperatures rise, the habitats that currently exist in the park won't necessarily be suitable for the species that live there anymore. For example, hotter summers and drier conditions could lead to more frequent and more intense wildfires, which will impact the plant and animal life that rely on the current ecosystem. This would also affect the humans who visit the park. Summers are already hot in Yellowstone, and many people go to the park to enjoy the cool forests and rivers. But if temperatures continue to rise, it may become too hot for comfortable summer recreation. And of course, that's something we need to prepare for. It's also likely that as temperatures warm, new habitats will emerge in the park. Already, biologists have documented plants moving upslope as they seek out cooler temperatures. If current trends continue, it's likely that new plants and animals will show up in Yellowstone, including species that currently live much farther south. Some of these newcomers may fill niches in the ecosystem left open by native species that can't adapt to the changing climate. Or they could become invasive and outcompete native species for limited resources. Either way, we should expect to see changes in the types of species that live in Yellowstone as a result of climate change. And then there are the direct effects of climate change on the park's iconic features. Most of Yellowstone's geysers rely on a delicate balance of heat, pressure, and water to function. As temperatures rise and precipitation patterns shift, some of these systems may stop working altogether. Just how many is hard to say, but it will probably be more than just a few. And even if they don't stop working, the warmer temperatures and lower water levels may cause some geysers to look very different. For example, Old Faithful has already shrunk as the water level in the basin it relies on has dropped. And in a warmer world, it may look even smaller. These changes to the geysers will be a huge loss for the park because they are such an iconic feature. They're what a lot of visitors come to see. And for the Native American tribes whose cultures have long been tied to Yellowstone, they are a critical part of the landscape's spiritual significance. But maybe one day soon, Yellowstone could get even more famous for a very different reason: a supervolcanic eruption. It's not exactly likely, but if it were to happen, it would certainly change Yellowstone forever. Right now, scientists are closely monitoring signs of unrest beneath the park, but it doesn't seem like an eruption is imminent. However, geologists do expect at least one magma chamber beneath the park to erupt again in the next 600 years. When that happens, we can expect some dramatic changes. The immediate area surrounding the eruption will be completely changed by the eruption. Lava will destroy forests and everything in its path. Ash will blanket the surrounding states. And pyroclastic flows, which are extremely hot mixtures of gas and solid matter, will race down the nearest slopes. Even people far from Yellowstone will notice the effects of the eruption because ash will travel thousands of miles, interrupting air travel and covering everything in a layer of fine material. In the days and weeks after the eruption, the air quality will be poor across much of the country, and experts will be scrambling to understand the global effects of such a large eruption. In the aftermath, the U.S. government will need to make some difficult choices about what to do with Yellowstone. The most likely option would be to close the park to visitors for an extended period of time while scientists monitor the area for safety. However, Even after officials deemed the area safe, visiting Yellowstone would never be quite the same. The landscape would be dramatically changed, and it's likely that many people would stay away. In fact, depending on how disruptive the eruption is to daily life outside the park, it may take decades or even centuries for the park to recover. Fewer visitors means less money for the park, and that will force tough decisions about how to keep the park running without funding. Staff may need to be laid off, maintenance projects will need to be postponed, and some parts of the park may need to be closed off entirely. Now, the good news is that Yellowstone National Park is used to change. It's adapted to wildfires, droughts, floods, volcanic eruptions, and it's endured more than a century of human impacts. It's a resilient place. But like any living thing, it can only endure so much. If human-caused climate change continues unabated, Yellowstone will continue to change, and eventually those changes could threaten the park's very existence. We can't predict exactly what those changes will be or when they will happen, but we do know that Yellowstone won't stay the same. The only question is, what kind of park will it be in the future? We have a responsibility to preserve this amazing place for generations to come, and that means preparing for whatever comes our way. Whether it's a changing climate or a volcanic eruption, we need to be ready to protect Yellowstone. This is a big task, but it's also an exciting one. By understanding the challenges that lie ahead, we can work together to ensure that Yellowstone remains a wild place where people can experience the awesome power of nature. If you want to learn more about what's happening right now at Yellowstone, we've linked to some great resources in the description. Thanks for watching.